Hi, this is Papa G, and welcome to Papa Can Cook. Today we're going to do a Portuguese chorizo and kale soup. It's a great soup for the fall and the winter, so I think it's an ideal time to talk about it. So here are the ingredients. We're going to be using kale, obviously. I bought a few heads of the curly kale. I like to strip the woody stems off, strip the leaves off of the stems, so it's much more tender when you put it in the soup. This is a pound by weight. It was actually 3 small heads of organic kale. So we're going to use that. We're going to use half a head of this green cabbage, a couple of onions, a few cloves, a handful of cloves of garlic. We're going to use some of these baby Yukon Gold potatoes. You could use the regular gold potatoes and just cut them up. We're going to use, obviously, chorizo. This Johnsonville brand is labeled as gluten-free. I don't know if you can see it. It's right over there. So you have to watch out, because when they make different types of sausages, they can put ingredients that contain gluten in them. So this is gluten-free. We're going to be using a can of diced tomatoes. Chorizo is gluten-free, so is Cento. We're going to use a can of, these are the small white beans. You can use cannelloni beans, something like that. We're going to be using chicken broth. Swanson is gluten-free. Check the label. And we're going to be using, obviously, salt and pepper, and a couple of bay leaves. And that's all the ingredients. Now I'll show you how to put it together. I have all the ingredients prepped according to the recipe. I have onions that I've chopped, the 2 onions. I have the Yukon Gold potatoes that I've quartered. If you use the larger Yukon Gold, just cut them into this size pieces. I have, over here, I have minced garlic, 5 cloves of minced garlic. I have a half a head of the cabbage that's chopped. I have the kale that I've already stripped the leaves. I took chorizo, the sausage. I cut them lengthwise twice, and then about 1/4 inch, so they're in chunks. That'll be nice in the soup. I have the small white beans. I took them out of the can, rinsed them, got rid of the liquid and rinsed them. And then I have the can of Chorizo diced tomatoes and a quart of the chicken broth. Okay, I've put some of the light olive oil in the pan. It's been heating. I can put both the tomatoes, the potatoes and the onions in at the same time. So I'm going to put these in the pot, stir them around. It's just kind of a medium heat. You don't want them to burn. I'm going to cover them, and they're going to cook. I'll check them every once in a while, stir them. They're going to cook for 5 minutes, and then I'll be back. The onions and potatoes have been cooking for about 5 minutes. The onions have turned translucent, perfect. So now I'm going to add the garlic. Now notice I didn't put the garlic in early, because the problem with garlic, if you put it in with something that takes a longer time to cook, such as potatoes or certainly onions, it'll burn. So I put that in. I'm going to give that a toss. I'm going to put a couple of nice size, let me see, 1, 2, that was a little one, so I'm going to put another one in. Use your judgment. This is nice fresh bay leaves that I bought recently. Oh, I love the smell. I love bay leaves. Okay, that's enough. I shouldn't overdo it. Okay, so those are the bay leaves. Now I'm going to add the cabbage that I had previously chopped. And we're going to put, now, looks like a lot of kale, but you'll find that when you put it in the pot, now I've separated the leaves from the stems, and what's left is a pound of kale. I rinsed it in water, so it has some water on it already, which will help it to wilt. So I'm going to stuff it into this saucepan. It's a rather large saucepan. It's not the biggest one I have, but it'll be good for this soup. I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to cover it. And we're going to wait a couple of minutes. After a couple of minutes, you're going to see that it's wilted down, and then we can put the rest of the ingredients in. The kale has wilted down. It took a little bit more than 2 minutes. I would say it took closer to 4 minutes, but as you can see, it's wilted down in the pot. I've mixed it up a little bit. So now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to add the chorizo, the white beans, the diced tomatoes. Everything goes in. I'm going to add chicken broth, a quart of chicken broth, let me raise the heat because I want to bring this to a boil. A quart of filtered water. Stir this around. I'm going to add about a teaspoon. And you notice I don't measure this. I've actually measured when I grasp it, it's about a half a teaspoon. So that, and same thing with pepper. We can always adjust that later on, add to it. And that's it. We're going to bring this to a boil and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Just make sure that the potatoes are tender, and then it'll be ready to serve.